Welcome to sunshiny Florida, where I have gotten an idea for a video during the daylight hours. Today, I wanted to talk about why I'm a skeptic. And like all interesting, formative traits that a person develops, it happens through some arbitrary experience in childhood that was really transformative. And for me, I think it was learning how to read. Now, before I sound like I'm tooting on my own horn, let me tell you that I am not an especially intelligent person, and I'm more of a savant when it comes to just about anything I'm intelligent with. Math kicked my ass. I'm a high school dropout, GED, went to college. It's more for social reasons, but I digress. When I was about 3, before I'd ever been to preschool or had seen a lot of daycare, I taught myself how to read. And this came from an obsession with a book by Dr. Seuss called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, this one of the most kick-ass cartoons of all time that still shows up on your network from friggin' October to January, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That cartoon, voiced by Boris Karloff and is absolutely timeless, is almost like 99.5% verbatim from the book. There's maybe one or two words that are different. And I must have watched a VHS tape of that year-round all the time, once a week at least. Loved it. And for Christmas, my uncle dressed up as Santa and gave such a convincing performance that I believed in Santa until I was 9.5 years old. Even after I'd seen the presents, and Santa was all outed in school, 3rd, 4th grade, I'd seen Santa with my own 2 eyes. And at no point, until I finally saw the home movie Taken and had it explained to me, I was like, okay, so there's not even the remotest possibility of an impersonal deist Santa. No. There is no Santa. But he gave me a copy of that book, the hardbound, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I sat here in his lap, mentioned me right there, and I read it to him. I didn't know the words. I was 3 years old. I knew them all by heart. And throughout that year with that book, I matched the words. I sat there on the carpet in front of our old UHF rabbit earsy Zenith TV and read it. And I paused that tape, and I'd look at the word, and I'd play it, and I kept running to my mom, okay, what is this letter? What's the sound it makes? Okay, and I pieced it all together. By kindergarten, when a lot of the students were learning their ABCs, they had to drag my psychotic ADD ass out of class and have some tutor, some high school kid, some high school freshman, read me like Christopher Pike novels and some of the more teen stuff that R.L. Stine wrote, because I had chewed up all of the Goosebumps by then. There were like 42 of them by then too. Not that those are anything impressive, but I think the first I have somewhere in a scrapbook, and maybe in a later video this will show up. My mom had given me, because she started dragging me to work. She was a workaholic, 80-hour work days. She'd given me a 3-ring binder filled with just junk pages out of, TPS reports and crap like that from her corporate job, and just give me a pen, doodle on them, because I was not a hard kid to shut up. I had a great imagination. Just hand me some stuff to screw with, and I started writing just words, E's with 5 lines. G's that looked more like S's and stuff, and I started learning how to write in that rinky-dink notebook that just had some crappy font my mom had shoved down the front slide, Jer's notebook or something, Jer's writing book, or Jer's doodle book, I think it said. And that was my nickname. And I remember very distinctly, after watching one of the seminal movies of my childhood before Terminator 2 came out, or before I got my hands on it, was The Octagon, starring Chuck Norris, and ninjas were fascinating. They were the real Power Rangers, and they fucking killed people. It was amazing. I was more fascinated with these mysterious, black-cloaked, stealthy, sleek, like a fucking new Lamborghini, even though they were shitty 70s movie representation of ninjas. N-I-N-G-A. Ninja. I showed it to somebody. They're like, oh, ninja spelled with a J, like Jer. Really? I had written this word ninja like 50 times on random dog-eared corners of this notebook. And I meticulously went through each one. Scribble, 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 X out, white out. Just random ways of just concealing this glaring inaccuracy, this mistake. Wrote next to it, incorrect. And underneath it, under every last one of those, N-I-N-J-A, ninja, correct. Thus began my fascination with history, trivia, knowledge, science, all the things that eventually turned me into a skeptic and eventually allowed me to break an unbroken chain of generations, pretty hardcore Protestant Christians, because of one word that I spelled wrong. I didn't want to be wrong. But this opened up a can of worms, because I found out that a lot of common knowledge was wrong. And it was fascinating. I was like, did you know if you suck on a cut that there's a boatload of bacteria in your mouth and that makes it worse? Did you know that, how fast cheetahs run? Or, the fastest animal in the world isn't a cheetah, it's a peregrine falcon. The peregrine falcon can make terminal dives from its maximum flying height, 212 miles per hour. A 65 mile per hour cheetah can go suck a dick. I couldn't believe people didn't know the truth. And I thought, there were moments of arrogance. I know more than you. And it stemmed my really unorthodox upbringing. I wasn't really exposed to pop music and stuff because I was not a popular kid and didn't have a lot of friends, and I preferred the company of adults. I was exposed at the ages of 6 and 7 and 8, man. Metallica, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, The Doors, The Beatles, Megadeth, frickin', man, Tommy Bolin and Deep Purple, the Indigo Girls, man. I frickin' listened to some frickin' Indigo Girls. I thought Alanis Morissette kicked ass back in the 90s, man. And what was everybody listening to back then? Freaking 98 Degrees or some shit. It was awful. I remember telling some friend of mine who the most cultured he got is he liked some Iron Maiden in between his freaking Poison and other 80s bullshit. I was like, man, you don't know who Janis Joplin is, man? It's the only most important female vocalist of the past 50 years, man. What the hell's wrong with you? I was 10 when I said this to this kid. But I digress. I couldn't believe people didn't know these things. There was this wealth of information, man, and I would dig through encyclopedias, man, read them fucking A to Z. I wanted to just know shit. And I kept finding out that stuff was bullshit, man. Like, there's no such thing as Johnny Appleseed. Man, do we even teach our kids Johnny Appleseed anymore? Fucking, George Washington didn't really chop down a cherry tree. Freaking, and then I stopped. And as I was really lucky that I wasn't pressured into church until I was a lot older. And I had a mom who struggles with her faith, to this day. She's not really a Christian. She's got Christ tacked on some new agey shit. But I kept being fascinated by when people were lied to. Like, I remember in 1996, I could barely remember what, but I was watching CNN going, man, this Bob Dole guy is a piece of shit. Was it 96 or 94? Dear God is one of those. Please, God, help me, get me some facts. This is low tech, man. Cracked HTC phone here. But why is that important? Where's the point here? Let me use sort of an example, sort of an allegory, sort of an actual direct point. I want to have kids someday. And I'm not going to tell that kid there is no God. And you know what? I'm even going to mention God to this kid. Like, he isn't going to find out about God from peer pressure in school or any kind of social environment. He's going to find out about God from me. But I'm going to talk about God in the most arbitrary, nebulous sense. Yeah, this book says something about it. But that kid's also going to read a lot of fiction. And if I let him get his hands on this rather gnarly, not PG-13 below, or not even book, you know, I'm just not going to color his mind even the correct way. I want to teach my kids skepticism. When kids run up to you and there's like that fucking 5-year phase where they start every sentence with, hey, guess what? Or you know what? Or guess what I learned? I'm gonna go, how did you learn that? Who did you learn that from? Do you think that's true? And watch out, this kid's gonna find the path by himself. Let's finish with this story since I am getting murderously long and just not really saying anything. When I was, I think, 2, I was a big talker, very eloquent kid. My mom found me in the living room of our little home. I was a single parent, so she had her hands full with me, doing science experiments with the shit under the sink. Anyway, she finds me with her car keys, cliche or not, parked in front of a light socket. Key about to go in. She knew that if she told me no, or that's bad, either out of spite or out of that real, I have to push the button curiosity, it's going to stick the keys in. So she comes up all curious, patronizing. Hey, what you doing there? I'm doing a science experiment. Oh, really? What are you going to do? I'm going to stick the key in the light socket. I'm going to find about electricity. Oh, really? What do you think's going to happen when you stick that key in that light socket? It'll shock me. Yeah. So what do you think might happen if you get shocked? I might die. I mean, yeah, people can die when they get electrocuted. You gonna stick that key in the light socket? Skepticism begins just as early as indoctrination, man. Curiosity is every bit the father of skepticism. I have noticed growing up, man, when I had friends that were really, really sheltered kids with the V-chip in their TV and no cable, no HBO, no R movies, it turned out to be some really twisted kids. Kids eventually developed fetishes, man. One of them was really into bondage, and like not the good kind. No fuzzy handcuffs, man. Gimp suits. Anyway, don't ask me how I know that. Anyway, don't shelter your kids, man. I saw porn and stuff when I was 6 and stuff, and I probably wouldn't pass that on. But I benefited from being exposed to the real world. And I didn't have an easy childhood. I experienced homelessness and drug abuse and violence and gangs when I was a kid. And it doesn't take that, but protecting a kid does a disservice, man. You live in a sterile environment, your immune system grows weak. You leave that environment and come out into the real world and you get sick. Anyway, I guess that's the moral of this story. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the sunny day.